Oh, wow. That's pretty awesome. All
You are
right.
live.
We
Oh
are
wow, 4 people
live.
already.
As we're waiting for Mr. Abramson here, I guess I'm going to turn on my camera. Here we go. Sweet. Okay. And let's see here.
Okay.
Paul, if you're
Yeah,
going to turn on your
people.
camera too. Hello, Michael. Welcome. All right. Nice. Okay. So, well, we get started here. Welcome to the EDI webinar. I'm Tyson. This is Paul.
And I'm Paul.
And we're ambassadors to, hey, Carl. And we're ambassadors to Mr. Errol Abramson. We do some stuff inside of EDI. And, I guess while we're waiting for Mr. Abramson, when we talk a little bit about how kind of things got started here, we originally just had the idea, and Mr. Abramson was like, "Yeah, we're going to help a lot of people." And so when we got started that time, we just created a little group, and people have been coming on. And hello, Gerhard. Hello, Lorianne. Hey, Roman. And yeah, it's just been an incredible journey. I mean, I think when we were in London, Paul, we just kind of had that idea come out not too long ago, right? We were just kind of talking about
Yeah. When we were last in London, and obviously at that event with Eric.
Right. Yeah, we
Mm.
were just kind of just talking about it then, and then everything's kind of just happened, as it goes along. So yeah. So Paul, what do you want to talk a little bit about? What you do over there in London right now?
Well, primarily because of Errol, my background was very much selling from stage, but I wasn't responsible for filling the room. So I was used to rocking up at events where other promoters had filled the room. And so I would just do my little thing, so I got very good at the selling aspect of it. But when that kind of all sort of started to disappear, then of course I was in a position where there was nobody filling the room for me. So I had to do something for myself. And that's really where Errol kind of stepped in and started saying, okay, look, here's what prospecting is. Because I'd never had to do it. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, right, okay, so that's how you put people in the room. Okay. so he really has been instrumental in getting me to understand the many different ways of sort of generating leads, getting people's attention, and then moving them down a path where they ultimately buy. So I now run a consultancy here in the UK, helping people, basically service providers, consultants, coaches, sort of build their own sales funnels. I also run Amazon business. So I have jewelry on there, which is doing extremely well across all of Europe, which is just an extraordinary opportunity, So, and again, Errol was instrumental in all of that. He was the one that kind of came to me and said, listen, I've got this opportunity for you if you want it. And I said, yeah, so ran all over it. And he's been, again, kicking my butt, sharing his ideas, getting me to obviously take action on these things and make it actually a reality, which has been fantastic. So, I mean, eternally grateful to him. So,
Yeah,
and then, of
absolutely.
course, EDI launched. So, and that's just kind of grown from strength to strength in a very short period of time. So,
Yeah. People coming on like every other day. So we were just really blessed there. I have a very similar story too that I'll share probably another time. Right now, we want to get on topic here as part of the On Track program. So this webinar is also part of the On Track program. So private members can ask questions and stuff. So I want to read out some of the answers here that we put towards our group, our private members group. So we asked, why do you think that businesses fail? And we have some really good answers from our private member groups here. Jackie says they underestimate the work that's required. They don't have a clear vision. Nick says cash flow. Angela says ignorance. Jackie says people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. Great one there, Jackie. Vita says wrong mindset. They have a lack of vision or not clear about their ideal clients or avatars. Carl says a lack of tool sets required to be effective in every area of business. And they're not willing to educate themselves enough. Absolutely. Matthias says because they give up and they stop hunting for opportunities. How many people have given up just short of a huge opportunity, Paul says lack of prospecting, right? Danny says it's different for everyone, but maybe a lack of passion or belief. Definitely, if you don't passionate about your business, chances are it might not survive. Rosemary says no clear vision and their why isn't strong enough. Michael says they have a bad business model combined with focusing on fancy details that don't make any money. Love those answers. Thank you to our group inside of the private community there. I'm just going to go check in with Mr. Abramson here real quick.
Okay.
Okay. How are you guys doing over?
Oh.
All right. Okay. Okay.
I've lost sound. Oh, Errol, there you are.
I hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Looking very splendid in that shirt.
This one's off, is it? Ty?
I can't hear you, Tyson.
This is off. Tyson?
Yes.
Speak so we can hear you.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
We were just doing
right.
We had the question posted out into our private group, and we had some great answers there. Why do businesses fail? And we had, people answer like, their why wasn't strong enough. They didn't have a clear enough vision. But today's webinar, we're going to hear it directly from Mr. Errol Abramson himself. Why do businesses fail? I'm going to leave the intros to you, Paul.
I'm going to keep it really, really quick. If you haven't noticed, everybody, I've got a bit of a cold, so forgive me if I sound a little bit bizarre. But Errol, as you may or may not know, I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's worth reinforcing and reiterating because I kind of wake up and pinch myself most mornings. Errol's 47 businesses, all phenomenal successes, no failures, and 4, if not 5 of them beyond the $1 billion a year mark. So an extraordinary accomplishment, extraordinary entrepreneur. And if you're going to model 4, thank you, Errol. And if you're going to model success, then obviously seek out the very best, the person who's produced the kind of results which are way beyond certainly my wildest expectations. So I'm going to hand straight over to your good self, Errol, and let Errol take the wing and let Errol obviously explain to you in his words why businesses fail.
Thank you very, very much, Paul. It's good to see you.
You too.
And welcome to our call. I really appreciate you people taking the time to be with us. I'm really having a good time with this project. We, for those of you who are new with us, we have a group that we formed on the Facebook, and it's an entrepreneurial group. We call it On Track, and what we do is we're focused on just that, being on track, being positive, and talking about our businesses and how we can stay positive with our businesses and creating an environment that is entrepreneurial. Most things that we do in life right now gets a negative connotation, and there's a lot of negative out there. The beautiful thing is to be in a positive environment, which we've created here. I have had tremendous input from the people that are members of the group. We're going to cap the group at 100 people, and we're going to keep it there because that's all I can touch. I'm trying to touch each member in the group personally and find out about their businesses, find out about their success and failure, find out about how they're developing their business and what they do with entrepreneurialism, and then try to help them develop if I can in any way, which has been a tremendous input factor to me. I'm getting a lot of feedback from people, and that information is really helping what we want to do. Our program here is to take entrepreneurialism and really sell it to the world, because I think that's where the difference is. We all talk about this. You give a person fish, they'll eat for a day. You teach them how to fish, and they'll eat for a lifetime. And entrepreneurialism isn't just about becoming a millionaire or a billionaire. It's about making a good living. It's about becoming independent. It's about building a business that will create a lifestyle that you wish to enjoy for yourself, but you're not dependent on other people to give you the lifestyle. You step up to the plate, you take the bat, and you swing to develop your own personal lifestyle. And that is exactly what entrepreneurialism is. And I found that as I've developed here, I found 3 levels. I found the initial level where we are creating independence, then the level where we establish our business so that it gives us what we want, and then the opportunity to move our business to a stronger standpoint, or as people say, scale it to where we're creating the kind of income that will build a future for ourselves or develop a lifestyle that we wish to have. So the interesting thing is people talk about entrepreneurialism and they think it's being a millionaire. It's not. Entrepreneurialism is being independent. So talking about being independent and having your own business, the big question is why businesses fail. And if you were going to say to yourself why businesses fail, and you've got something in front of you, write it down right now. And let's see if you and I are on track on
Beautiful.
why businesses fail.
Beautiful.
So just take a second, get a piece of paper, and write it down. Why you think businesses fail.
Excellent. So while we're giving some people some time for that, we also posted this question inside of the On Track private community. And let's get some of the answers that our On Track private community members gave on why businesses fail.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. So Jackie says they underestimate the work required. They don't have a clear enough vision or dream to get them through. And then they run out of money. Nick says,
like that, Jackie. Jackie and I have had some very serious discussions about that. And that's very nice. That's semi on track, Jackie. Very good. Keep going.
Nick says cash flow.
Nick, you and I, cash flow.
Angela says ignorance.
What's that?
Angela says ignorance.
Ignorance.
Jackie also has a really good one here. She posted a quote where it says, "People don't plan to fail; they fail to plan."
Oh, Jackie, now you're becoming prolific.
Vida says, "Wrong mindset. They have a lack of vision, not being clear about their ideal clients, lack of self-confidence, fear, and lack of long-term and short-term planning."
This is coming from inside the group.
Yes, these are the answers from inside the group.
For those of you who are here that are outside the group, we still have spots available. And these people, you know what would have been interesting, Tyson, if we would have had this discussion with them 6 months ago, 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And as they've been in the group, because a lot of these people have stepped up their game already in the last few months.
Yep, they sure have.
Any other input for that?
Let's see here. Matthias says, why do businesses fail? Because they give up and they stop hunting for opportunities.
Okay.
Paul says lack of prospecting, which we were talking about earlier. And Danny says a lack of passion. He believes a lack of resourcefulness. Rosemary says there's no clear vision and when their why isn't strong. Their why isn't strong. Yeah. And lastly, Michael says a bad business model combined with focusing on fancy details that don't make money. Focusing on fancy details.
Well said, Michael. Well, there's a lot of great reasons, and a lot of you have really been right there on track. Some of the information that you gave are tools that people would need to develop, and some of them are the important plan. But from the businesses that I've seen, the number one answer people normally say is lack of capital. People run out of the cash. That's not so. It is lack of planning. Plan your work, work your plan. And the lack of planning is whatever your business is, if it's a business, you're in the sales of a service or a product, nothing begins until something is sold. What do you have? Who's going to buy it from you? How will they buy it? For what price? And it goes on and on and on. But that becomes the plan. And that is why I actually created my template, so that we could come up with a good plan. Because if you go through the what is it that you want, and there's very simple why and how, and those are the two different things. Why do you want to do something? And then how will you do it? That's part of planning. And that's where you come up with your goal. What do you want to achieve? And whatever it is that you want to achieve, are you selling a service? Are you selling a product? What is that product going to do? What value is it going to bring to people? That's all part of your plan. How am I going to get that out? How am I going to become unique? And believe me, when it was spoken cash flow is what keeps you in business. If you have cash coming in every day, it's hard to get out of business. If you have cash flow coming in every day, I've seen people actually get so much business that they take themselves out of business. And I'll tell you the people that do it, people that are in the wholesale business, because they're trading their product or their service for a receivable, a promise to pay you. And they continue to get those promises to pay, but they have no cash. So they can't function. And they end up selling themselves out of business because they haven't planned properly. If you plan properly, then you know how to get lines of credit for the amount of product or service that you're selling, and you can stay in business forever. But when you have bad planning, you take yourself out of business. Now, let's face it, a lot of us get into business, we get a good idea. And the first thing we think we need is a partner with money. And so that's what we run around with our idea, looking for somebody with money. And everybody's seen Shark Tank and those other businesses, have you not? Well, you know what happens when those businesses that they get a deal on Shark Tank need additional capital? The sharks take more of the business if they put up additional capital. Unless they've made a deal that they will provide the capital for expansion and stick with what they took. We met a lady here, Ty and I met a lady here that did a deal with one of the sharks for her candy business. And it was a great deal, and the candy business did very well. 3 years later, she only owned 7% of it. Because the business grew, needed more capital. Mark Cuban, who made the deal, was happy to put the capital in, but took more of the business to be able to create the capital. Okay? She didn't know what she needed. And she admitted it was bad planning. So it isn't always the money or getting the money that creates the business. The first thing you have to do is find out what your product or service can do and what value it brings. And then you go out and experiment with it and find out if it does, in fact, bring that value. Who has to become the believer in the product or service? You do. The most important thing is to believe in your product or service. Some people think that it's just going to take getting into business and I'll put this product out there, everybody will buy it, and I'll become a millionaire. And believe me, it should be that easy, but it's not.
We have a few more comments coming in. Can I interrupt you here with a few of them more?
Sure, please.
Thank you. So Roman says, I think most of people don't have guidance. Adrian says, yes, there's a lack of time and true commitment. Lorianne says they lack effective sales systems and a valuable product. Yeah, those are really good ones, guys. Thank you.
Great input. Thank you, everybody, for the input. And developing and using this in our businesses today will make our businesses immediately stronger, because planning is something that we can redo. We can redo it by the quarter. We can redo it by the month until we have an effective plan. You're not going to have all the answers now. If that were the case, then you wouldn't need the greatest book ever written, Think and Grow Rich, which gives you principles for success and says you'll find things along the way. See, after running a business for a month, a year, you're going to become more experienced, aren't you? And you'll be more experienced at what you need to run the business monthly, to run the business annually, quarterly, and to be able to see where it's going, to be able to have the analytics to move the business forward. So it's planning and replanning and replanning. If you look at the template, what is the last thing in the template? Is resolve and to replan and to go right back to the beginning. I never rested on any of my businesses. I never rested on where they were that day. When a year dropped off, another year had to be put on. I always wanted a 5-year game plan for my businesses. So when year 1 dropped off, year 6 had to be written. And that way, year 5, year 4, year 3, and year 2 that were still being developed would have updates in their planning. Are you understanding this? Are you getting this? Does this make sense? Businesses that I've bought, I could see the plan for the business where the owner of the business didn't see the plan. And then it's execution. And that has a lot to do with discipline. It has a lot to do with desire. You know, the second chapter of Think and Grow Rich, desire. And if you develop that kind of desire, and again, I want to go back to my quote, adversity. Let's talk about adversity. I don't know if there's a person on this call that has not experienced adversity, has got into a business, the business just built out and created all kinds of money without any adversity at all. I've never gotten a taker on that. And if you are, please, I want you to get a hold of Tyson, and I want you to be one of the speakers on our next webinar, because you've got something special if you have had no challenges. So when it was spoken, Tyson, when you said about the why, and the why is not strong enough, that does happen. That does happen. We get a good idea, but are we committed to the idea? You know, what's the difference between being involved and being committed? We've spoken about this before. Remember my story about the chicken and pig, Tyson?
I do, but I think it's a good story. Maybe we can tell people on the webinar.
The chicken is involved in a guy's breakfast, but the pig says he's committed. And when you look down at the guy's breakfast, 2 eggs, 2 strips of bacon. I speak perfect chicken. The chicken says, I had to bang my bottom. I had to lay those 2 eggs. And for this guy to have his breakfast tomorrow, I got to do it again. And the pig says, you're involved in that guy's breakfast, but I'm committed. Because in order to make those strips of bacon for tomorrow, I got to die. So ask yourself right now, with your businesses, are you involved or are you committed? I've seen a few businesses from some people, and oddly enough, these people uh, didn't stay with the program. And oddly enough, I saw them structure their business, put their business out for tender, where they're going to ask for money, but have no idea how the business should run or if what they're selling works, because they didn't have anything. They went out and bought a structure, almost maybe a franchise, but with no idea of how the actual product is going to work. Well, are they set up for failure? Of course they are. Of course they are. Who should know more about your product than you? Who should know more about a service that you give than you? And what is the number one selling factor? And I've spoken to this on every level of everybody in our group: testimonials. And Tyson, it's time to ask for testimonials here, because we need testimonials posted so that we can show people outside the group what the group is doing, what the group thinks about how we're going about developing our entrepreneurial spirit.
I just want to say thank you to Lorianne here, who just posted a quick testimonial. She says, "Oh yeah, you step into your game really fast in this group. I 10 timed my goal on day 1, and then now back on track to hit it. Thank you, Mr. Errol Abramson." Thanks, Lorianne.
And Lorianne and I have got something that we're starting in July too. I'm not going to mention it to the group. Lorianne knows what that number is, and it's a hefty number, isn't it, Lorianne? And guess who's going to be your biggest fan? With a Uga horn and popcorn and a beer, sitting in my armchair watching you achieve that goal. And Lorianne, I believe you can achieve it. I believe in you.
One more here from Carl. "I was fortunate enough to use a template to help me see a business that wasn't working. I'm always grateful for that."
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you,
Carl, I want to give Carl some cheers here, because he's been a tremendous help. He's brought most of you into this group because of his belief. And I know Carl now. We got to meet last October in the UK. We got to spend a little bit of time together, and I really valued him. But he was lost. He didn't know where to go. And I've seen Carl develop and create the kind of focus that is laser-like, and it's going to give him a tremendous amount of achievement. Attitude's important. Don't get me wrong, attitude's important. But the reason a business fails is lack of planning. Questions?
Yeah, excellent. A lack of planning. And Paul, I think you're going to start off with some of the questions that we had. I just want to quickly, while we're waiting for you to come on camera here, thank Arnie from the Millennial Entrepreneur community there for letting us post inside of that. And we have a lot of millennials asking some questions today. So Paul, I'll let you get started with that.
Yeah, I just read through, pick out the ones.
Your camera on there too. Sorry, oops.
Yeah, I'm just conscious of my cold. I don't want anybody.
We're going to catch a cold.
Why this is web. It's
Yeah. Well, you never know. Those virus things, I hear about them on the internet all the time.
Well, I the first time I heard my computer had a virus, I put a box of Kleenex on top of it. I was a little ignorant about it. Where does this computer? Oh, there it is, right there. It's a little snot right here. Nothing like having fun. By the way, have fun with your business. You're in business for fun and profit. And I am really having a lot of fun here. Watching you guys develop has been my greatest joy. You know, I'm going to tell you something. Your success is our team reward. Is it not, Tyson? We feel good about that.
110%. Absolutely. I love it. You know, when we have, results coming in from our members, it's just amazing to watch. It's so inspiring.
All right, so we got a question from Crystal in Tennessee. What failures did you have is kind of the first part, but maybe the second part's more relevant. What would you do over again if you could?
Number one, I didn't have any failures.
No.
I'm 47-0. For you to fail, you have to quit. If you quit, then you failed. Now, I'm going to tell you something. There's nothing wrong with failure. There's nothing wrong with not succeeding if you learn from it and you don't quit. Because education has to be gotten somewhere. You have a spelling test in school and you get 97%. That means you were 3% wrong. So you take those words and you learn them. You learn how to use them. You learn how to spell them. And you've learned something from your success. I call it temporary defeat. Mistakes that I've made, many. When you make a mistake, here's what I do. I identify it. You know, I've blown the farm here. I identify it, and then I try to do something about it, and I try to not make it again the second time. And if I do, I cut off a finger. That's why I only have. If I do, it becomes a tremendous education. But that's what temporary defeat is all about. And also, where are there great places to learn? Lori Ann and I were talking about that. We're talking about being able to mirror other groups, or to be able to. She heard a challenge that one of my other people have, and she said, I'd like to do that. I think I'll work with that person and take on the same challenge they're taking on. So there's plenty of people out there to mirror. And you can start with a single step. I was talking to a friend in Australia about his business. And we were saying, why don't we continue to get referrals and take your business and pre-launch it? And say, look, I'm looking for people to work with now to get results for, so that I can have testimonials to build my business. And I'm willing to do that at 50% off or 75% off. And you'll get these great results, this, and this. And if you don't get any results, it's for free. And he left the meeting elated because he didn't have to wait. And again, what was said, he was going to create, what was he going to create, Tyson? He was going to create some what? Cash flow.
Cash flow. Yep.
Right? There's going to be some money coming in. Next question.
Yeah. There's a question here that's going a little bit to the investing. It says, when did you start investing? Because a business will get you to a certain point before multiple investments would take you into the billions. And then in brackets, they've put usually.
Well, here's a rule of thumb. And this is a very interesting thing. I have found that most people start running a business, get a business successful. The business is turning profit. And then they look for a place to take their money to that they don't know anything about. And they give it to a broker, or they give somebody some money and they lose it for them. The best place to put your money is back into your business. to develop and expand your business. When your business is expanded to the fullest point, then take a step away. There's a few things that you should look at. You should look at real estate. I like to have a foundation home. This is different than most investors. I liked homes with little mortgage on them. I tried to buy a little higher than I could afford at the time so I could work into it. But a piece of real estate that is where you and your family can live. And then look towards development. I'll give you the greatest advice I can possibly give you in today's business environment. If you have capital, don't lose it. Take low risk and have the capital available to build and develop your business or to be able to weather a storm with your business. Sometimes people have success very quickly and they take all that money into their personal life. They have nothing left to build and develop their business. And they actually strangle themselves out of their own business. Don't do that. Don't do that. Build and develop a successful business. Put your capital back into your business or into capital reserves for your business. Once you have capital reserves that keep growing, then you can look for other investment opportunities. And my God, are there investment opportunities out there today?
Excellent. And before we continue with the other two questions, I just want to acknowledge the first question was by Crystal Tran. That was what failures did you have and what would you do if you do it over again? Then the second question about the investments was by Nathan Wistonley. Thank you so much for your questions. Sorry, Paul. Did you have one more?
Ty, could you give me my glasses?
All right, Errol. There's a question here that says, how do you justify the time away from your family?
The other one, reading glasses. I think they're in the other office.
And just to add to that, I think that question is also more to do with time management.
This is an interesting question for you to answer, Tyson, with your new baby.
Thank you.
How do you justify time away from your family?
The question was by Mark Stevenson. And I think it's a good question because it's it really talks to his conviction about his family values here.
Keep our money.
Time. I really think it's in time management and priorities. If anything, I've learned from Mr. Abramson is that there's two things to look at here in your business. Number one is productivity versus activity, and productivity is really what in his terms what rings the dinner bell. What brings in cash flow. So, if you want to have a thriving business, you got to do what it takes to be able to have that cash flow. And it means, some time away, then that's what it means. And we'll get into the productivity versus activity template in a little bit here because we had a couple of questions.
This is such an interesting question. And Paul, this is a question we've had. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. You have a job and it's going to take 40 or 50 hours away from your family. And your employer wants you to get the job done. Do you think your employer is really super concerned about your home life and social life, or whether you get your job done or not? Becoming an independent entrepreneur gives you the opportunity to choose when you want to be on track or when you want to be off track. I'll give you, for instance, I lost a relative, and I'm very sad about it, but we decided the show must go on. And I chose to be off track 2 weeks ago to be able to fly to Winnipeg and sit by her bedside and hold her hand for a little while and enjoy the time I had with her. Now, if I was working for somebody else, I would have been at their behest. Would I not, Tyson? They would have to give me the time off. Then there's the ability to create security. As entrepreneurs, we create our own security, and it is that insecurity that can destroy us as entrepreneurs as well. How much insignificance can you live with? Paul, this is the NLP. You're very you're a great coach on things like that. But I wanted to do things for my family. I wanted to be able to give my family benefits that from a job I couldn't give them.
Mm.
I wanted to give them more than security, because what I found is a job didn't really give security. Because if somebody else came in and did that job better than you, you could be at risk. Could you not, Tyson?
100 to 10%.
If they decided to make a change that was above your pay grade and you got hit with it.
That's exactly what happened to me.
You were in a business for 10 years. So it's an interesting thing, sacrifice, which is really what you're talking about, and balance, which everybody talks about wanting to achieve. And let's ask ourselves honest questions. If you put a 5-year game plan together and did what you had to do to be able to do what you want to do, would that be a better plan? And work with your family on sacrifice, or be able to bring your family and relatives into your business and develop an entrepreneurial attitude amongst your family, which I've done, and or develop friends like I have in you and Paul and Ty. And we're developing a business together, and your success again is my reward. So I don't justify time away from my family. I value the time that I can spend with my family. And the more independent I've become, the more independent time I've had to spend with my family. If you look back as I was developing my business, some of the trips and some of the things that we've taken are fantasy compared to the way people live their lives. I was able to develop my business around golf because I loved golf. And I was going to 25 golf tournaments a year. And I made a business around that to be able to deduct it. So when you talk about independence and you talk about sacrifice, the rewards are much greater as an entrepreneur than they are as a person working for a job. And so if you need to sacrifice time away from your family, you got to do it.
Excellent answer. Thank you, Mr. Abramson, and thank you, Mark Stevenson. We'll be in touch with
that. Great question.
Really good question.
I think there's also, though, within that, there's the idea that if you're not seeing your children or your family every day, whereas really what you've said is, and I agree with, is you flip it. It's the time you do spend with them where you get to give them your full attention because you are independent. Your mind isn't in two places. You can be completely there because, and like you say, take them on great holidays, take them on great vacations, but you are there.
Yeah, very good. Absolutely. I'm just a little cognizant on time here. We have a couple of questions. I want to get to Lorianne's question here. I have a question about activity versus productivity. I understand the distinction Errol taught me, but I am struggling a little bit with the list of productivity tasks. So my question is, can you give me an example of productivity tasks?
Very simple. Productivity is something that generates money. Immediate money. Activity is just that. It generates activity. In a business that you have employees, Lorianne, you would give activity tasks to staff. You would delegate it, and you would be involved in the productivity. For instance, let's say designing a new program that's going to generate productivity. That's a green file. Now, as you're developing it, it might be a red file, but it's going to turn green. And because we talked about it, you're going to need at least one additional profit center to hit your goal that you're setting, that monster goal. And so, who should be working on that additional profit center? Should be you, okay? But who should be giving you the analytics from your business? Not you, somebody else. So productivity is something that will generate the profits of the business. And that's where I want to spend my attention. You know, a business that is, it used to be about 50 million or under, could have a real sales promoter running it. And then these huge businesses now, normally the people that are running it are military trained people, but involved in finance. And the interesting thing when you look at them, how far down can their thread go into their company? And how much can they see in their company? And that has been very interesting in my consulting. I've always watched where the thread breaks. And if we take that thread and fix it and take it a little further, all of a sudden these CEOs see more about their company. They understand more about their company and they're able to lead their company better. You know, in the military, they train people a certain way because when the push comes to shove, they know what the majority of those people are going to do under pressure. Same thing with running a business. Same thing with running a business. And I'd like to get back to Lorianne, and creativity and imagination come from productivity. Next question.
Excellent. For time, I really don't want to go overboard too much, so we're going to finish up with two more questions. Is that okay, Mr. Abramson? Okay, great.
Whatever.
Zach,
this is your call.
Paul, I'm going to take it away with two more questions here. Zach asks, how do you decipher between high value commitments and low value commitments?
You briefed me with that question earlier, and I'm not really certain what a high value and a low value commitment is. So I struggle answering that. I try to keep all my commitments. If you can't keep low value commitments, how could you possibly keep high value commitments? But what I'd like to dig into that question a little deeper and see, maybe it's priorities that were being asked, and I don't know if Zach's still with us and can post that.
We'll get in touch with him later, and maybe we'll answer that further.
Priorities are important, and finding out what the priorities are, especially with what you do with your time, because I guess the high value commitments would require more time, more priority. I'm not really sure, but I like to prioritize. I like to make sure in my daily method of operation, in all my businesses, that I like to, and as you know, Tyson, we like to talk about productivity, three projects or three files that are productivity files, and then we want to make our calls, and then we want to talk activity.
Yeah. Exactly. We're going to finish up with kind of a fun one here. Sarah asks, what lesson did you learn from your worst job?
Oh boy, Sarah, my worst job. I started being in business for myself when I was very young, but in the beginning, from 14 to 17, I worked in the restaurant industry or the fast food industry. And it was a very simple reason. I developed this silly habit of eating. So the one thing that they do in the fast food industry or the restaurant industry is they feed you. they provide a meal or two. So I'm working in the fast food industry, and I'm working at a Dairy Queen, which is an ice cream shop for those of you who are in different parts of the country. And the one thing that they do is they put a curly Q on the end of the soft ice cream. And I got to be able to do that. I got the wrist down, and I was able to make that curly Q super perfect. And the owner of the establishment saw me making that curly Q, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "I'm going to give you a raise." And he gave me a raise because I could do the curly Q from $1.30 to $1.35 an hour. And I thanked him. And he was so embarrassed that he made it a quarter the next day.
Excellent. Really cool story. I just want to thank you again.
Let me cap it off.
Okay.
Let me finish it.
Yep.
So the resolve of that story is strive for excellence. If you work for somebody else or you work for yourself, you're creating your own mindset.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. My goodness.
I want to, when you tell me, I want to summarize as we leave.
Okay, great. Just a quick little thing here. If you are interested in joining the private membership community, you can always just go to Facebook, find me, Tyson Wong, facebook.com/talkwithtyson, and we'll be able to chat and see if you're a good fit. Okay. Again, thank you, Mr. Abramson. This is an amazing webinar. Why businesses fail is definitely a hot topic, as you can tell. Thank you, Paul, for hosting this with us. And I'm just going to let you close it up, if that's all right.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to apologize to the people that I had to cancel calls, but I got a call yesterday about the death of my relative, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. So today's calls and tomorrow's calls got canceled. We're going to get back on track on Thursday, and if we have to work the weekends, we'll work the weekends, but we'll get all the calls in. I'm really anxious to continue to work with you. I have such a pleasure working with the people in this group, and we're going to make a significant change, because right now we're involved in writing the first syllabus, and the first syllabus is going to be the initial entrepreneurial, and I've already identified that we're going to be working on 3 syllabus now: is developing entrepreneurialism, establishing entrepreneurialism, and then going for the gold. So I wish everybody that is on this call the very best. And remember, achievement depends on you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you again, everybody. And we'll see you on the replay. If you want the replay, we'll make that available as well. And if you want to chat, just find us on Facebook. And thank you again, Mr. Abramson. Thank you again, Paul.
Tyson, where do people get a hold of the template?
Right. So if you're
in the daily method of operation.
Right. So if you're a private member, it's accessible inside of the description area. That's a good question, because a lot of people have been asking that already. So you have to be a member, and then under the description area, you'll be able to download the template straight from there. Great question.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Signing off. Have a great day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world, and we'll chat soon. Bye for now.
Take it easy.